Deep in the South Atlantic Ocean, 8,000 miles from the UK, the Falkland Islands are one of the most isolated places on Earth. Over the last 30 years, the famously hardy islanders have overcome war and adversity to preserve their way of life. But now, there's another challenge just over the horizon. Oil has been discovered offshore, and whilst the human residents here stand to benefit, there are others who may not. It's May in the Southern Hemisphere, and excitement is growing for the social event of the autumn, the May Ball.
I got my nails done and my hair.
I had mine too. Can't remember to you, a long time ago.
And there's a new RAF chaplain at the military base.
Hello, Mark, it's the Padre.
Padre Ian does the rounds of his congregation, but will he manage to entertain the troops?
Where do you think we are then? We're at school. Yes, we're in the school. That's right. Okay.
Welcome to you if you're visiting the Falkland Islands or whether you're here on East Falkland in Stanley today.
Sunday in Stanley, and in Christchurch Cathedral, it's business as usual for the rector of the Falkland Islands, the Reverend Richard Hines.
For those who would like to learn a new song, it goes like this. You ready? A man went out to sow some seed and sun fell in the rocks. The sun beat down and the plants dried up. That's a dry plant. And that was the end of that.
When Richard arrived on the Falklands almost 7 years ago, the islands were already a very different place from the mainly agricultural community that fell under the world's spotlight during the 1982 war. Most of his congregation now live and work in Stanley, and what was a declining population is definitely on the up.
There have certainly been massive changes for people who live in the Falkland Islands during the last 35 years. And if anything, the pace of change is accelerating now. And what it's taken some countries a couple of centuries to pass through, the Falkland Islands has gone through in a few decades.
In 1998, islanders learnt that deposits of oil had been discovered in the waters surrounding the Falklands. And since then, there's been a lot of speculation about the size of the find and when or even if anything would come of it. So the arrival of a 400-foot barge into Stanley Harbour is an exciting sign that things are finally on the move.
The noble barge has arrived, made in Texas, and brought down through the South Atlantic, and quite impressed with the way in which these tugs are manoeuvring the thing through what we call the Narrows. It's one more step in a whole series of things that are happening as the build-up for oil exploration itself is underway.
The Texan company who own the barge have been granted a licence by the Falkland Islands government to explore one of the areas where oil has been discovered. And they've flown in a couple of their representatives to tell everyone about their plans.
Ladies and gentlemen, exciting times are upon us here for Noble Energy, and we believe for the Falkland Islands as well.
One of the things that we're very committed to is, if we are so fortunate as to be successful, that everybody benefits from whatever makes sense. I don't know what the numbers, how meaningful they are, but suffice it to say, it's big.
Everyone is excited about the prospect of oil and the money it'll bring to the islands, but nobody wants it to spoil what they've got here. Arguably, the Falklands' greatest asset is its wildlife. 5 different species of penguin, seals, and a host of seabirds could be at risk when their natural habitat is disturbed. Australian marine biologist Megan Tierney has been drafted in to work with the Falkland Islands government and the Petroleum Licence Holders Association to help make sure that doesn't happen.
I first fell in love with Antarctic stuff, I think, when I was about 10 or so, and I decided that's where I wanted to go. And then I saw a new job come up at the South Atlantic Environmental Research Institute. A lot of the work I'll be doing while I'm here is going to be focused on what we call higher marine predators. So these are the animals which are sort of at the top of the food chain, essentially. So penguins, they might not seem like the most ferocious of predators as such, but they are sort of at the top of the food chain in this part of the world, so they might be quite susceptible to any potential sort of environmental impacts from the oil industry. So if there happened to be a spill, which is going to be unlikely, but in case it does, because of their diving behaviour, they'd be more susceptible to be impacted by that spill.
One of Megan's first projects is to produce a map showing where in the ocean these creatures go to feed during the winter. To do this, she just needs to catch several penguins and fit them with a satellite tracker, which is not as easy as it sounds.
While penguins might appear to be, small and cute and fluffy, they're actually got a lot of character, quite capable of giving you a good whack with their flippers, potentially breaking bones in hands and arms, and also quite sharp beaks and claws, and which has been known to rip through quite expensive Gore-Tex jackets. So, worthwhile being wary of them.
But Megan can't afford to hang around. To be useful, the study needs to monitor the birds' feeding patterns right from the beginning of winter through to the end. So she needs to catch her penguins while she can. At this time of year, the sun is low in the sky and sets at around 5 o'clock. For the youth of Stanley, that can only mean one thing. It's time to get their dancing shoes on. The annual May Ball is fast approaching, a milestone event in every Stanley teenager's life, and nobody wants to be shown up on their big night.
Go a step and turn, and it's exactly the same. So step, swing leg, step back.
Basically, we're here to help youngsters learn to dance, although most of them already know a lot of the steps from previous dances. I had my first May Ball back in 1991 and spent a number of years away from the islands, and on returning had to learn it all again. So we've all been there and kind of earned our dance shoes as such, and it's just nice to be able to pass on skills to future generations.
2 steps, 1 dance, 2 steps, again.
I think it's something the girls coming up to 15 look forward to every year. It takes a lot of planning because obviously the girls have to order their dresses and it's a big thing. Don't want to clash with someone else's colour and all the rest of it. Hair appointments are hard to come by. Nails done, it gets bigger and bigger every year.
The May Ball is one of the Falkland Islands' most enduring traditions. It dates back to Queen Victoria's Day, when it was called the Empire Ball and held every year on her birthday, the 25th of May. This year's ball is taking place at the Town Hall. Tim Miller and his wife Jan are in overall charge, and assisted by a team of helpers, they're putting the finishing touches to the decorations.
Don't stand on it. It'll be shorter. That's nowhere near the... It's all right.
Each year, we try and pick a theme to focus on. This year, being 2014, we're focusing very much on the centenary 1914, start of the First World War, and the huge, great big naval battle that took place just off the Falklands on 8th of December 1914 between the British fleet and a German fleet.
The Battle of the Falklands, as it became known, was one of the great British naval victories of the First World War. But it came only a few weeks after another British fleet had been defeated off the coast of Chile. The victorious German admiral then made the ill-fated decision to mount a raid on the supply base at Stanley, where he was met by a squadron of British battle cruisers. Seriously outgunned, he turned and fled, but was hunted down, and all but 2 of his ships were sunk.
Although we're celebrating, we're also commemorating the massive loss of life as well. And so we've decorated the hall accordingly. One side, we've got the pictures of the British ships, and then on the other side up here, we've got pictures of all the German heavy ships, as a mark of respect, really, to the 2,000 young seamen who went down on the German side. And then up on the stage there, we've recreated 2 guns from a very old British battleship, HMS Canopus, which was moored at the lower end of Stanley Harbour. She was too slow to take part in the battle, but she actually fired the opening salvo of the battle on that morning of December the 8th. We've been helping run the May Ball now for, I think, must be 22 years, I would think. It's a lot of work setting it all up, but we enjoy it. It's one of those nice little traditions that, you know, it just gives you a feel-good factor, playing your little bit in helping keeping it going, really. I just realised I've got it the wrong way up.
Does this happen a lot, Joe?
No, not usually. No, he's talking and working at the same time, and he's a bloke, and he can't do that. That is worse than a thing you can do.
Which basically means you're in distress.
Yeah, it's a shootable offence.
Yes. The Union flag upside down is actually a sign of distress. But if you don't know how to do it, it's quite easy to hang it upside down.
35 miles southwest of Stanley is Mount Pleasant British Military Base. Since 1986, this has been the home of an ever-changing community of around 2,000 military personnel, contractors and their families. Most people here are on detachments of between 4 and 12 months. One of the most recent arrivals is Reverend Squadron Leader Ian Brown, Mount Pleasant's new chaplain.
So we're just on our way to Mount Kent, which is one of our remote radar sites. We've got about 10 people up here, and they're all up here together for about 4 months. We're 8,000 miles away from the UK here, so that doesn't come without its issues for serving personnel. Hello, Mark, it's the Padre. My role here is really to look after the welfare of the serving personnel, the contractors, any MOD civilians that might be here.
Yeah, okay.
How are we doing, you all right?
Going well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
so you're keeping busy?
Yeah, always.
It's pure morale. Basically, you know that there's somebody out there that cares, somebody that's outside of your command structure.
Everybody's getting on all right, aren't they?
Yeah, everybody's going on okay.
How's comms with home, all right?
Yeah, not bad. Spoke to the missus a few times. She's happy enough, like, a bit of peace without me, you know.
Somebody who can actually look after the guys and push their cares forward.
So what's on the menu tonight?
Fajitas, nice.
Fajitas. And comms with home have been all right, haven't they?
Yeah, not bad at all.
How you doing? How you getting on with Minesweeper?
Completed it.
You completed it, that's fine. Okay, great.
You know, it's not unusual that after you visited a section, within the next couple of days, somebody will call you and they'll perhaps have an issue that they want to talk through. And that's where a lot of the one-to-one pastoral work takes place.
Back on the base, Padre Ian's centre of operations is St Cuthbert's Chapel.
So this is my office. Over here you can see pictures of my family, look. There's Sam, Becky and Emily. And Alfie the dog. Look at him. He just melts the heart, doesn't he?
Padre Ian is going to be away from his nearest and dearest for the next 4 months. But some service personnel on longer postings bring their families with them. The children have often been uprooted from their schools in the UK, and part of Padre Ian's job is to make them feel at home in their new environment. And he's got a secret weapon to help him do just that.
This is my friend Grandpa.
Nice to meet you, Grandpa.
Thank you. You've not met Rocky the Raccoon either, have you? Oh, you must see Rocky the Raccoon. He doesn't say a lot, does Rocky? But he's certainly a firm favourite with the children.
Oh, and how do Rocky and Grandpa get on?
Grandpa doesn't like Rocky at all. So, you know, I think Grandpa is in earshot, so we'll just have to be a bit sensitive.
In Stanley, at the headquarters of Falkland Islands Conservation, Megan and Conservation Officer Sarah Crofts are preparing to go and tag some penguins.
Scales, fantastic. Notebook. Yes. Various tools that we might need.
Their research will help protect the penguins and other wildlife once the much-anticipated offshore oil exploration gets underway.
Trackers. That would be a good thing to take with us. Yeah, so this is one of the trackers that we're going to be attaching to the penguins. When the bird comes to the surface, like it comes up to the sea surface, it'll send a signal out through the antenna, which will then up to a satellite, which will give us its location. You know, you hear it said never work with children or animals, and wildlife in particular. They're unpredictable, and so, you know, we're expecting that they'll be there. But there is this chance that they'll decide, you know what, it's nice out there, out at sea today, we're just going to hang out there instead of coming back in for a rest.
Megan's study is focusing on the Gen 2 penguin. The Falklands is home to the world's largest population of Gen 2s, identified by their orange beaks and long tails.
Okay.
In the summer, around 130,000 breeding pairs nest on the islands. But what isn't so well known is where they go to feed in the winter and how long they stay out at sea. Their best chance of finding a colony of Gen 2s is Bertha's Beach, 40 miles down the coast from Stanley.
The penguins are either end of the beach, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. There's two colonies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll have to stay well back when we get there.
But at this time of year, they're notoriously unpredictable.
Looks like we've overcome the first challenge, whether there would be any penguins here.
They don't seem too worried at the moment.
If we just sort of keep it nice and slow.
Yeah. And every time it looked like they're getting spooked, we'll just stop, let them stop again.
We're trying to approach the birds without disturbing them as much as possible, because if we approach too quickly, they will get alarmed and then they'll basically run away from us.
Right, so we just stop it and just do things like itching forward really slowly.
The aim is to cause the penguins as little distress as possible, so everyone's relieved when the first attempt is successful.
We've managed to get a couple of birds, so we're recording all the measurements that we take and the weight of the bird. 6.7.
It's a bit tough. So 5.4 and 2.5. Let's just keep them calmer. If they can't see, they tend to sort of keep a bit calmer just to reduce stress. Just stick the tape underneath slip feathers. This is special waterproof tape. And the important thing is to make sure it's sort of on the spine so it's nice and straight. I think that looks good. You happy?
You get the chance to sort of contemplate them and just marvel at the things that they're capable of. I mean, it can be quite humbling, really. When you work with these birds, obviously you don't want to try and anthropomorphise anything and, you know, get too attached, but they are, you know, special animals. They're carrying these trackers for us almost, you know, sort of, you know, as volunteers. And because we don't have a lot of information on where they go over winter, it's going to be this lovely new set of information for these particular birds from the Falklands.
Back in Stanley, at the South Atlantic Environmental Research Institute, Megan gets visual proof that their efforts have paid off. The trackers are working.
A different line represents a different penguin. So you can see that we've had a lot of birds just heading east out of Bertha's Beach. What's really interesting is that we've also had one of them that's been heading up to the northeast. And a lot of the exploratory work that's been done for the oil and gas has been to the north of the Falklands at the moment. And so what we might see is whether these penguins over this entire winter period where we have the trackers out, whether they utilise that area as well.
Oil is important to the future of the Falkland Islands, but so are all the other natural riches of this unique and unspoiled place, and preserving them remains the #1 priority. It's 8 o'clock in the evening, and over at the town hall, excitement is in the air.
Tonight's the night, and Maple Night 2014. Well, obviously you're sort of nervous. Is there some little thing that you've forgotten about that's going to suddenly, oh dear.
This is the 22nd May Ball that Tim Miller and his wife Jan have organised.
This is a real traditional dance here. It's been going on for I don't know how many years, decades, and everybody likes it to be just so, and I think we've got it right tonight.
The guy with the black cowboy hat on, he's still wearing the tie that I lent him 2 years ago when he came without one.
The winter was always really good, but this is just a different experience. The dresses are different, the dances, it's really good.
The girls still get excited about it.
I got my nails done and my hair, and my aunt did my makeup.
So I had my turn. Can't remember which year, a long time ago though. But I think I always get excited about Maple, really do.
The party is going with a swing, so it's time to get down to the serious business of electing this year's May Queen and her Prince Charming. The ballgoers all get a vote.
Each one's given a pink slip for the May Queen and a blue slip for Prince Charming, and then they can vote for whether they want to win.
But there are also 3 mystery judges, chosen by Tim for their impartiality.
You will see the girls dancing waltzes, foxtrots, quick steps, sambas. We will ask you to give several choices. Stanley is such a small place that you very soon get to know not just your next door neighbours, but you get to know all the people in the shops, in the pubs. Within a few months, you will know pretty well everybody in Stanley, and they will all know you as well. That's why it's important to get newcomers as judges, and you'll just be identifying them to us by the girl with the red dress and this colour shoe and that sort of thing.
Everyone throws themselves into the dancing, hoping to impress the mystery judges and each other. By the end of the evening, all the votes have been cast, and it's up to Jan to supervise the count.
I'm not too sure on the girls so far. The piles are a bit even. And we're for 7.
We're going to do the gentleman first. The Prince Charming for 2014 is Mr. Jack Ford. Okay, it gives me great pleasure to announce the May Queen for 2014, Miss Kaylee Anderson.
The Falkland Islands have a new May Queen. For 15-year-old Kaylee, it's been a fantastic evening.
I just expect to come here and dance and have fun, and then I won.
Yeah, she's very bubbly, very bouncy, and she was just really in there dancing all the dances and having so much fun.
Some people might think it's a little bit sort of old-fashioned and quaint what we've been doing tonight, but in the Falklands we value our traditions and our heritage. We're really proud of them, and this is one of a good old tradition that we really like to keep going.
On Mount Pleasant Military Base, Padre Ian is preparing for another pastoral visit. The base has its own primary school, and he's been asked to take the morning assembly. And Grandpa's going along as well.
Right, so Grandpa, we're going to go to the school today, and we're going to meet the children. I want you to be on your best behaviour. Okay. Right, come on, let's get you in the bag. I think Grandpa's quite unique in what he brings to the party, and so I'm hoping they'll be looking forward to seeing him today. There's a number of people who are down here on 12-month plus tours, and they're eligible to bring their families with them. And so we have not only serving personnel and contractors, but we also have a community. And part of my role is to look out for the community. So I enjoy going into the school and working with the children there. So I'll do an assembly each week, because everybody, whether you're staff, child, serving personnel, we're all 8,000 miles away from people we love. So it's good to see you all again, and I've been thinking about what to talk about today, and while I was sitting in my office thinking about what to share with you today, a friend of mine just had a chat, and he said he wanted to come along too. We don't want to disturb him too much. There he is. Oh, dear. He's fast asleep. Okay, so I think if I count to 3, if we can wake Grandpa up, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Wake up, Grandpa.
Okay, maybe a little bit louder this time. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Wake up, Grandpa.
Okay, I think we're just going to have to go for it this time, okay? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Wake up, Grandpa.
Goodness me! Yes, okay, Grandpa. Where do you think we are then? We're in the school. Yes, we're in the school, that's right. What did you want to share with the children?
My friend Albert is coming.
Ooh. Well, Grandpa, did he tell you that he was frightened about getting on the aeroplane?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So what did you do when he told you that?
I laughed.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not very kind, is it? Did you say anything to him?
Yes.
What did you say to him?
I said, scaredy, scaredy custard.
Oh, dear Grandpa.
You smell like mustard.
Oh.
It's really nice when they come into school and do assembly and they get to know the kids really well. We're in a very adult environment here, so whilst a lot of people do go out of their way to put on things for children and support them, often the Padre coming into school and doing assembly for the children is something that's really focused at them every week, and is on that child level. So I think the Padres enjoy that as well.
What do you think Grandpa should show Albert in the Falklands?
You could show him Bertha's Beach.
Bertha's Beach. Now, what's on Bertha's Beach?
Penguins.
Penguins. What do you think, Grandpa? I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good idea.
Yes.
They seem to like Grandpa, and they're open to anything you've got to share with them. I do miss my own children, and certainly seeing children there in school uniform. My daughter is in primary school today. She'll be wearing her uniform. She'll be having an assembly, and part of me does think of her particularly while we're going through this. Yeah.
What did you think of Grandpa?
It's funny. I thought it was epic. Very, 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 very funny.
Next time, the Reverend Richard joins the Scouts on a trip to commemorate the Battle of Mount Tumbledown.
It's a very hands-on, a very real, tangible thing that they do to honour the people who are remembered by those plaques and that cross.
And the new governor and his wife get settled into Government House and prepare for the arrival of an important family member.
Wonderful to have her here. She's sailed over half the world to get to us.